Good morning. What a glorious morning for your 175th anniversary. My goodness. And what an honor to be here with you. I was saying to, I think, Bob earlier, I appreciate the gift that you provide to the Food Hub for my being here to speak today. But it is my gift to have the opportunity to truly talk about the Food Hub in the work of God, not in the numbers, not in the donations, but in the heart of the work that we do. I don't get to do it often. I'm often just a 5-minute mission moment when I visit churches. And so thank you for entrusting me with this important day. I love being with you. So, according to Ecclesiastes 3:1, and a song by the Birds, to everything there is a season. In the Episcopal Church, we observe the seasons of two great cycles of the year: seasons of celebration, Christmas, Advent, and the weighty seasons of Advent and Lent. No, that's backwards. Sorry, Lent. And yeah. So anyway, but then there are the in-between times, the longest time between the seasons, which are labeled as ordinary. Yeah. Ordinary time isn't to be considered mundane. Not at all. Actually, ordinary has more to do with counting and ordinal numbers than it does the word ordinary. It's a time dedicated to studying Jesus's lessons, to trusting in God's commandments and commitments to us, and living out our faith in daily life, in the routines that become our ordinary. Indeed, in the scriptures for today, and one that I thought was going to be there that isn't, we find passages rich in themes of servanthood, persistence. How many times did we say persistence this morning? Unwavering faith, God's guidance and intervention, and never to lose heart. We hear about struggling with an angel who may have been God, sharing fear and vulnerability and never giving up, begging, "From where is my help to come?" Being persistent whether the time is favorable or unfavorable. Hearing Luke's parable of the persistent widow who solicits incessantly for justice. It's a metaphor to convey that even if the unjust judge can be moved to act justly, how much more will God respond to persistent faith, persistent prayers, and persistent compassion? Now, in the middle of the Midwest, quite literally almost the longitudinal and latitudinal center of the United States, is a community not unlike Lancaster, very much agriculturally focused and same balance of business and agriculture, founded in German heritage, similar in geographic size and population. But here's where it's not so much like Lancaster. It was voted not too many years ago as the most average city in the United States. How do you think I feel coming from the most average city in the United States? But then, over the last 10 years or so, it also has become one of the highest rates of divorce communities, one of the highest rates of drug abuse and sales and violence, and obesity, of all things. So my little hometown is struggling mightily. But as long ago as in the 1970s, my mother and I, we founded in the 1980s, but it was founded in the 1970s, stumbled across an intentional inner city ministry. It was founded by 3 couples who came out of seminary together, swimming in the ecumenical movement of the late 70s, right? Reconciliation and things. And they settled in one of the poorest neighborhoods in town with the intention of living their faith in community, like what I do, rather than from the pulpit. They were also teachers and artists and musicians and bakers with day jobs. But they bought small homes and fixed them up without gentrifying. They shared meals regularly, walking to one another's homes with a casserole. And if a neighbor was hungry, they were invited in too. They worshiped together every Sunday in one house or another, and especially on front porches. Those were good gathering places with good acoustics. One of their earliest organized ministries cropped up during an afternoon walk when they recognized that the majority of the children living around them came home from school alone, walking through streets heavy with drug use and sales and danger. So as they expanded their afternoon jaunts, they decided to start walking the children home from school. And after that, adding a snack, and after that, adding some tutoring. It just seemed like a natural, neighborly thing to do. So they settled into this pattern of intentional stewardship when the downtown synagogue, just 2 blocks away, decided to move out. They were very aware of the young couples in their ministry, and they sold them this huge building for a song. And there, Patchwork Central was born. Now, those afternoon walks turned into a 45-plus year award-winning after-school program. Their ministries grew to include a food pantry, a weekend food backpack program for kids. There was a bakery for job training, especially for those who were coming out of incarceration, and sharing that product, low-cost bread, into the neighborhood. That was one of my very first formal volunteer opportunities where I got to do it all by myself. There were community gardens, free health and dental services, a neighborhood economic development center, and tons of art and music. Patchwork Central persists as one of the greatest programs in my hometown and is one of the greatest influences in my life. It taught me how to see that people have a desire and a fundamental right to seek and live lives of dignity and grace without persecution or separation. It taught us to address our broken world with wide open hearts, but with loving and caring, clear boundaries, so that we could consistently practice fairness, dogged compassion, withholding judgment, inviting people in and walking alongside one another, whether we were in the street, in a broken neighborhood, in a comfortable home, in a place of wealth, walking alongside one another for the sense of community. So, how does Patchwork connect to the Food Hub? It means that in addition to supplying basic human needs, the only time I will say I today is now. I have intentionally sought to help build that sense of community that I learned at Patchwork. Yeah. It's one thing for us to gather food and process it and put it in a box and help someone carry it to their car. It's quite another for us to be comfortable enough and intentional enough and persistent enough to help them feel comfortable enough to talk with us, to tell us what might come next for them. We're truly trying to reach beyond what could be seen as a transaction, the transactional nature of distributing food or clothing or pointing somebody to the right outreach service to get a roof over their head, and creating a sense of belonging and connectedness. Now, before I go too much further, I know you've got Bradley here, but how many of you truly are familiar with the work of the Food Hub? Food Hub. Okay. How many of you remember the Lancaster County Council of Churches? Mm-hmm. Oh, about the same number. Well, guess what? We are the Lancaster County Council of Churches. The Lancaster County Council of Churches was a group of about 35, somewhat focused in the city, but churches throughout Lancaster County in the 1940s who came together saying that they could do more in community together rather than alone. One of their first programs that they put together was our clothing bank. Food was not our first program, it was clothing, in partnership with Mennonite Central Committee that was also very young at that time, and bringing in refugees from the Ukraine and Russia. And so spending most of their history in a 4-car garage, growing their ministry of clothing distribution and free food through the food pantry, and homelessness services in one way, shape, or form, whether that has been shelter or outreach, daytime support. In 2014, the Lancaster County Council of Churches said, this is not enough. We have been doing this for 70 years. They wanted to do more, and that vision became a reality when they bought the building that we're in now, a brand new, well, it wasn't brand new, they made it brand new, 27,000 square foot warehouse building at 812 North Queen Street. It was a little bit of a, if you build it, they will come, and come they did. Filled up rather quickly. And by 2019, in order to better communicate our mission and expand fundraising opportunities, dear church, how hard is it sometimes to find fundraising opportunities open to churches?
Amen.
Yeah. Our name was changed and to the Lancaster County Food Hub, also so that people would know to come to us. It also changed the nature of our leadership from clergy to non-clergy. So I am only the second non-clergy leader in almost 80 years. It's not an easy task. So today the Food Hub is a hub of activity and a place of compassionate care and service. The food program itself provides almost 70 pounds of food per month to households who can come to visit us, who might have caseworkers that deliver food to them, or in a few cases, we deliver food into homes. We also supply food for the community meal program. So every day in Lancaster County, 3 meals a day, almost 7 days a week, you can find a free prepared meal. You have to be able to get there, but we supply a lot of that food. Between the programs that we distribute, we've served about 55,000 people last year. We served about 48,000 the year before that. We served about 35,000 the year before that. Do you see the huge jumps in thousands? Yeah. The community meal program went from about 89,000 to 95,000 to 109,000 meals last year. The need is skyrocketing. The clothing program is really one of those labors of love, right? There's lots of grant money in food. There's not a lot of grant money in clothing. There's lots of grant money in homelessness services, but that clothing bank takes up a whole lot of space, and it is a labor of love. We can serve anywhere from 15 to 20,000 people a year, just depending on space and time and how many clothes we have. All the clothing comes in for free and it goes right back out for free. It's in a nice retail setup environment with customer service folks to help you shop and help you bag up your clothes. And last year we were able to serve 17,500 people. But what's even more important is to understand the impact that free clothing has. We don't always believe in giving things away for free, but in this case, we're helping people make ends meet. And so community aid helped us value the community impact of our clothing. It's almost $1 million a year in free clothing going into the community. It's really a significant investment. For many years since 2021, we have run both a nighttime shelter and a daytime program for what are called low barrier unhoused individuals. The best definition I can give you for that is street hardened. They've been in the street, they stay in the street. It's difficult for them to come out of the street. We stopped running the Homelessness Coalition's shelter in June of last year simply because it closed, and then they reopened it and doubled the size. Our work in the homelessness space involves relationship, just like how we're trying to build relationship in food and clothing. You cannot build relationship with more than 80 beds, and you can't have enough case managers and be able to afford it. And so our missions were separate and the size was separate. We're still great partners. The shelter is catty-cornered from us, and we still have our day program that's intended to meet people where they are, to build a relationship. Out of that, some trust and hope, and hopefully out of that, a commitment to take one step closer to what might bring some stability in their lives. That program touched about 800 people last year. Just 2 outreach workers supported 800 people, and about 25% of them were moved into more stable circumstances. Just this September, we were blessed with the opportunity to take that little daytime shelter space, daytime program space, and go from 500 square feet to 5,000 in a renovation of our second floor. So the impact that each of those programs has been staggering. And that's a lot of statistics and numbers to report, each number as important as the other, but it hurts to provide impressive report numbers when what we want is to work ourselves out of a job, right? We want for things to go back to being just ordinary. And we ask ourselves all the time, is it enough? Is our persistent stewardship making a difference? These are not ordinary times, my friends. They are not. The realities of poverty in Lancaster today are hard to hear and harder still to navigate. Each day we're faced with the injustice and imbalance of the times, and certainly the imbalance of resources. It's just not easy. I'm asking a skeleton crew of staff members and about 30 volunteers per day, per shift, to be steadfast in representing compassion and kindness, and failing all else, just keep their cool. Despite hundreds of interactions with neighbors who are living in circumstances that range from indifference to hostility to despair. But we're doing it. We're doing it every day, arms wide open. There's one special statistic that I'm proud to report to you. We're always measured by Central Penn Food Bank and this system and that system, probably because we're so large and they want to see what we're doing, but surveys all the time. And the big Central Pennsylvania Food Bank survey last year included questions about how people felt after they left pantries. Now, the question came as a negative. Did you ever feel judged or treated without dignity in a food pantry? That's a negative question, right? Right? So the answer, the best score you could get is a 0. Guess what our score was? 0. Not a single person who took, thank you. Remember now, we served, 55,000 visitors, but the statistical significance was 300 surveys. So we feel like where are my attorneys? That's statistically significant, right? It's working. Our persistent stewardship and compassion and just standing together. We don't have to do this, and we certainly aren't going to do this, but we can walk through life together, is working. Your patron, St. Luke, is known as someone attentive to both the healing, physical healing, and the social and community elements of Jesus' work. His gospel highlights compassion, inclusion, care for the marginalized, and God's concern for bodily needs as well as spiritual ones. His writings remind us, as Bradley shared with me, that the good news is meant for all people, especially those pushed to the edges. It's exactly the life we're trying to live at the Food Hub, pairing needs for basic human health with faith, compassion, inclusion, and dignity. We could not do our work without the congregations, volunteers, and donors who built and uphold our foundation. When congregations like yours and individuals like you send us your contributions, or grow vegetables and deliver them, or shell wealth from your own closets, we do things in big numbers. We can certainly put a coat on a gentleman's back, or shoes on a little girl's feet, food in the stomachs of families, and help those without a pillow find a place to lay their heads at night. But please know that your support also helps us lift that gentleman and that little girl and those families on pathways towards lives of dignity and grace within a community that is no longer a church organization that embraces all faiths and walks of life, but that always intends to share our daily life in faith and friendship with persistence across seasons, celebrations, and ordinary time. Amen.